Today's our ink studio, and we're doing two things today. We're doing ink just by itself, and then we're doing ink with water. Ink by itself is sometimes called dry brush, and then ink with water is called wash technique. So we're using dry brush techniques and wash techniques. So I have some examples of both. I just tore this out of a magazine. It's a brand new magazine, Sunglasses ad. This is both, if it's a black, that's just straight ink, and if it's slightly gray, that's a wash. Here's an example of just brush with ink. Pretty funky woman. Here is Gandhi with just the paintbrush. Notice this is the watercolor paper, and they drug the brush across the paper, and the rough edges showed. He actually used this in his portfolio, but we had to take the writing out in Photoshop. Don't try to write with the brush. Looks horrible. Here's in a magazine. A ton of caricatures in magazines are ink with brush. Here's Louis Armstrong drawn in a magazine. This is a student. This is a self-portrait that a student did with ink on Bristol board. Notice the shadows, and that's the key to the images you're using today, is to get some good shadows, and you're mainly painting shadows. Here's an example of this was a straight ink. So she painted the tree. She didn't do the words. She painted this little line there, and she painted the mountain. So this was mainly a white painting with this tree. So then, for her portfolio, she scanned this into Illustrator, and she put all the color in, and she made it into a menu. So that turned out pretty good. Here's another self-portrait, straight in ink. This is Muggsy Bogues. I don't know if you guys have seen, remember him from the Hornets. This looks like it is a wash because of all this gray here, but that's just the way the photocopy did. This is all cross-hatching, so that's all just ink. This was nice. This was a person I had come a couple quarters ago. There's several comic book artists who live in Charlotte. And this is Andy Smith, and actually drew this and inked this in class. Even though you can ink on the computer, many comic books today are still inked by hand, drawn by hand and inked by hand, because it's so much faster. The computer is so slow with certain things, and then they color them on the computer. Almost all the coloring on the comic books is on the computer these days. But that was ink with a brush. So now those were all ink, just ink techniques. So now these are wash. So for example, look, they did all these gray washes, and they came back with some ink on top. This is a great one. This is Marilyn Manson. This is a series of students. He did all these in class. So some of these can be very fast. He did all four of these in class. I think maybe except this one. This is great. He actually ripped the paper off the top of Marilyn there. And then he did these illustrations for me. Then when he got into either advanced type or something, he turned them into stamps. You can see he added the edges. He added the Antichrist, the USA Antichrist thing, and he added the price. Lord knows what that is over there a sense. This was Bo Diddley with washes and ink. So he did a lot of washes underneath. Look at all these drips and splatters on there. Then he did the ink on top. This is Jay-Z, I believe. This is washes with ink on Bristol board. Tiger Woods, washes again. A lot of crosshatch though over the washes. This is a combination image. So this is what someone did for homework. So the student had this. Actually, this student is still here in school. They had this garden scene, and then they had this woman sort of crying. And then look, he created this sort of sad scene where he did the drips, which I'm going to show you. He did all this splatter, put them together. Another wash image. In fact, I'm not going to pass that one around. Very similar, very simple washes. Here's colors ink. We're not going to do color ink today, but you can buy colored ink. The Joker. That was after it came out last. A student did this for me after last summer. Look at all these great splatter, ink splatter, drips, all kinds of things going on there. Here's this nice one. This is on watercolor paper. This was a great one. Again, this was a student's. He did this in class. So these are washes. This was actually a self-portrait of the student. This is the student's buddy. So he did these two separately. In fact, I think he did his art book, just people in class. But then when he got into portfolio prep or something like that, he actually used these two and took pictures of them like this, scanned them into Photoshop. I didn't get the actual thing. Put a big hide line, and he used this as a illustration for an article on racism. So that was a nice way to get in the portfolio. We're going to do a stencil today. This is a nice stencil. You can see this woman's face sort of got messed up. I need to erase that. So this is just cut out, little pieces cut out of a piece of Bristol board and then splattered. And another stencil. It's a lot of stencil. Don't have ice bleeding.